Hello, in my discussion today, I will be comparing and contrasting the leadership styles and philosophies between Jack Welch and Kim Mulkey. Before jumping straight into things, I'd like to give a background on both of the people involved. So, who is Jack Welch? Jack Welch is a former CEO of General Electric, where he served for 20 years. People often also call him the manager of the century because of his financial growth during his time there. Jack has become popular due to his leadership philosophies and the things that allowed him to be named manager of the century. Jack's leadership philosophy has many different strategies that help implement them in a work setting, but the key and core values of his philosophies include performance, accountability, honesty, leadership, improvement, and what stood out to me most is his concept of differentiation. These values highlight that everyone should strive to perform at their best at all times. Employees are responsible for meeting expectations. Leaders should give direct, constructive feedback instead of avoiding difficult conversations. Great leaders should develop future leaders within the organization. People should always be learning and developing themselves. And as I mentioned, for differentiation, it is a concept where you identify the top performers and reward them while improving the average performers and eventually eliminating those who are consistently poor performing, listed as A, B, and C players. Who is Kim Mulkey? Kim Mulkey is a former collegiate athlete where she gained an NCAA championship. She was also a former USA gold medalist, a 4-time NCAA national championship head coach. Currently, she is the head coach of the LSU women's basketball team, and she's also the first coach to win NCAA championships as a player, assistant coach, and as a head coach. Kim's leadership philosophy is outlined by what she calls the 10 steps to victory. Seven of those steps remain the same throughout every season, where 3 of those could be interchangeable. The core values of these steps include discipline, honesty, accountability, a team-first mentality, strong culture, and player development. Under these values, Kim is expecting her players and staff to arrive punctual, meaning being on time and ready to go every day that they lace up their shoes or step into the gym. She expects honesty from them, meaning that if a situation was to occur, she would prefer her player be honest with her rather than beat around the bush and face more consequences. And in facing the consequences that they do face, she expects them to take accountability for their actions and move forward. Included in her 10 steps are things that relate solely to basketball, such as her players must play defense and they must maintain a respectful environment in the locker room. After explaining who they are and what they stand for as in their leadership qualities and philosophies, I will now begin to compare and contrast them both. As I evaluated their leadership styles, there were 4 qualities or values in particular that stood out amongst the list of them both. These values include high standards, accountability, leadership development, and a winning culture. I chose high standards because Jack expects his employees to perform at a high level and continuously improve, as well as Kim Mulkey. She expects her players to produce and practice. She expects her players to properly prepare. She expects her players to be accountable. and she has also repeatedly transformed programs into championship contenders by establishing these clear expectations. As far as accountability, Welch believed that all of his employees should be held accountable for their performance, as well as Kim. She believes that every player and staff member should also be held accountable, regardless of their status on the team or playing time. She says that playing time is earned through effort, discipline, and execution rather than a reputation. So in that case, that can relate to Welch, as in, just because you have this title at the job doesn't mean that you can't do another aspect of the job. Very similar to Welch himself, who did not start in the position that he ended in. This brings me to leadership development. As I mentioned, Welch himself did not start out as the CEO of General Electric. Therefore, Welch's philosophy highlights that leaders should create future leaders throughout their careers, just as it was done unto him. Whereas Jack Welch is developing corporate employees, Kim is developing players. But in developing those players, she develops them for on-court abilities and off-court, emphasizing responsibility, academics, and personal growth in addition to basketball itself. For the fourth value to explain how they're similar, I chose to word it as winning culture. I chose this wording because both parties believe that success starts with the culture surrounding their environment. Welch built his Fortune 500 company on a performance-driven culture, whereas Kim builds championships cultures where everyone understands their roles on the team and their expectations before even stepping onto the court. Same as in the corporate world, all the employees already know what is expected of them and how to perform efficiently. Although they have two completely different positions, their leadership styles and philosophies are almost the exact same. So the differences that they have here are in terms of one is corporate and one is a coach. Therefore, one party is dealing with employees versus the other party who is dealing with student athletes, as well as employees too. So Jack is focused on profitability for the company, whereas Kim Mulkey is focused on getting championships for her team, for her school. One has corporate evaluations, and the other is more so on like a mentorship performance evaluation. So Jack has led a Fortune 500 company where success was measured through business performance, innovation, and profitability, using structured employee evaluations and differentiation to manage his employees and talent. Whereas Kim Mulkey is leading a college basketball team or college athletics, and her success is measured through player development, team chemistry, and championships, which all has to be done through motivating the young athletes while balancing academics, recruiting, relationships, and a staff. I think both leaders are successful because they never lower their expectations just to make people comfortable. While demanding leadership can initially seem harsh, both leaders also invest in helping people improve before expecting excellence. As they create environments, people know exactly what is expected of them and push themselves to reach their full potential. Even though their leadership styles can be demanding, they both believe that growth comes from accountability and consistent effort. The biggest difference to me is that Welch applied those ideas in the corporate world while Kim applied them in college athletics by building relationships with players and creating a team-first culture. Though two completely different industries, both demonstrate accountability, preparation, and strong leadership are essential for sustained success.